A button has been pressed. Hello, haters. So we're here, not on the beach. You can see some sand over here.
Yeah.
It's a really cool place in Madrid. The name of it is Ojalá, which means I wish. So right now I wish I was on the beach, but I'm in Madrid. There is no water here, no rivers, but this is the best that we can get.
Yeah.
And this is my friend Iveta. So would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm just visiting Madrid for 6 days, but I love it. It's great. I've been here last summer. Originally, I come from Lithuania, but I live in Denmark. But it's always fun to travel and relocate.
What is your biggest passion?
Well, my biggest passion is moving businesses, industries towards better and more sustainable behavior, and in that sense, moving people and their shopping behavior and in general behavior towards more sustainable. So,
Just sustainable, because we keep hearing all those sustainable ideas, but it's really hard to understand what it means and how it can benefit society.
yeah, so basically, sustainability is something permanently making into better than before. And this usually addresses the environment because, as most of us know, environment is a very sad subject these days because it really suffers from how we impact and contribute towards making it worse. So,
And I mean, fashion means producing so much. And a lot of people are just crazy about fashion. They just want like new clothes every single day.
Yeah.
Which of course we understand because it makes you feel better. But how is it bad for the environment and for the community?
there's nothing wrong with expressing yourself, and I think it's so lovely when different cultures and different personalities shine through the way they dress, and it's just great to recognize person's identity in this way. But consumption got out of hand because demand of new clothes and trends is so big, and the clothes cost like a sandwich. Like really, you can go to a fast fashion store and buy a new dress, and it costs
Yeah, like
a
mass market shows.
yeah, exactly. And
Why is it bad?
well, basically, there's a lot of transport involved, and those clothes are usually produced in the third world countries, and the working conditions for those people producing those clothes are very, how to say, horrible.
Yeah, like we hear about, I don't know, kids working in horrible conditions somewhere in Vietnam. So we started to feel too hot in Ojalá because there was sand everywhere. It felt like a beach. We decided to cool down a little bit. We got outside, and we're here in Madrid, just chilling on the streets. That's how people like to hang out here in Madrid, to have some drinks. And yes, let's continue our conversation.
Basically, I think the most important thing for people is to understand that most of the shops and markets and fashion stores, whatever you name it, in your city, functions in a way that's like a line, which means it's production when the goods are being produced, and then consumption when then we go to the shop and buy the goods and then use it, eat it, whatever, and then everything from the consumption part is being the disposable part, which means we dispose it, we throw it out, and in this way we burn it, we pollute oceans, we use landfill, so that's basically an unsustainable behavior, which is the majority of how we behave.
Do you think a lot of people realize that? Or I know that it has become a trend recently, but speaking about like the world in general and different countries, because you studied in Denmark, so in Denmark and in Scandinavia, people became aware of this. Do you think it's the case for the other countries as well?
I don't think people are aware about it enough, but I don't think it's their fault because people are not being educated. Because when you think about it, if everybody will become really sustainable, we will all need to change. and change can be quite uncomfortable. So, a lot of things suffered during change,
A
but
lot of people are selfish in that way. It's just like
yeah,
it's that capitalistic society where it's just me, me, me all the time, isn't it? Like it's
yeah, being self-centered plays a big role in an unsustainable behavior because I believe if it's kind of your responsibility to research whatever you buy. But of course, when you don't know and you just see that beautiful package, you see the beautiful product, you don't know how was it produced, where was it produced. I mean, it's what can you do? You just buy it. You like it and you buy it and you don't think about it. But and when you said it's a trend, it's not a trend. You don't really have a choice at this moment. So it has to be a trend.
so. How exactly do you change the situation then? Because the mass production is such a huge deal. It's not that if you start caring for fashion or for sustainable fashion, it's not that all those mass market shops gonna stop suddenly and realize that okay, we're doing a horrible thing.
Yeah.
So what's the solution? Is there a solution?
Of course, because it's such a big industry and there's a lot of money involved in it. To solve it, it's going to be a big challenge. But I think there is an opportunity to address every problem through a positive perspective. For example, fast fashion stores do have an opportunity to upcycle and recycle and to maybe invest more in their materials, have a more slow mindset and invest into slow fashion, which is like more lasting clothes and slower trends because we see trends changing so fast. Every second week you see something new, you want it, you want to keep up with it. You can still have it, but at a slower pace. And
Well, I know that some shops, for example, they're doing this thing that if you bring your old clothes, they recycle it and then they give you some kind of discount.
yeah, and that is great. That is.
I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a good idea because even though it maybe doesn't have a huge impact on the whole problem, a person who's already doing it, he gets educated in that small sense that, okay, actually this exists and it's kind of like I'm contributing to something good, to something better. So that is already a good thing.
And sustainable fashion is part of social entrepreneurship, as it is. And social entrepreneurship, as I know, is becoming a trend. That you don't just do something for yourself in order to get benefits. For example, I know the story of this designer. He created shoes called Toms.
Yeah.
Shoes for tomorrow's future. Where do you see yourself as sustainable stylist?
Well, I see myself promoting sustainable businesses. Maybe not necessarily fashion, which would be my preference. I just seek to encourage young people to move towards something that's better, and something that's better is sustainable and ecological and green, and you name it.
And how can people contribute to this?
Well, taking small steps. Nobody wants you to become, drastically change your life in one day. Instead of maybe buying something at a fast fashion store every week, maybe choose a vintage shop for once in a while. It's giving a life to something that's old. It's small steps. Just to check the labels, check what's in the label. You can donate clothes, exactly. You can recycle once in a while. You can consume meat less. I mean, there's so many fun and effortless ways to be more sustainable.
Yeah, and this ways will really change somebody's life.
Yeah, exactly.
Some kids who are working in factories for days, and it's super dangerous, I think, and unhealthy. I also find it unhealthy that people make fashion like religion,
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, it's part of expressing yourself, but it shouldn't become something that we worship. And I'm looking at my head now.
I mean, sometimes it's best to have something inside of you to broadcast than to constantly show it through your apparel. Invest in yourself. Get educated. Check what you buy. Check where does it come from. What is it containing.
Is it better to buy clothes from designers? Because it's super expensive and not so affordable. Is it better to buy it from mass market shops?
Well, the funny thing is about human brain, the more work we put into something and the more we spend on something, we put higher value on that. For example, maybe if you buy a shirt from a fast fashion store and then you break it, you wouldn't be willing to sew it, to fix it. but hey, when you buy something for, you know, a decent amount of money, you will probably get that thing fixed.
Yeah.
It's like you invest into something and you cherish it more, and you buy it not in such high quantities and not so often.
But what if you're super rich and you keep buying like a bunch of designer clothing?
Yeah, well, like everything, you know, it depends on a person. It depends on,
balance,
yeah, exactly.
It can be bad if you go over the board and if you
Yeah.
start consuming too much.
Yeah.
It's kind of like with fast food, when you
Yeah.
just like start buying and buying and buying
Yeah.
clothes, and it's just in your house, like your wardrobe is just filled with it.
Yeah.
What do you really do? Half of it you don't even wear.
Exactly, and the funny thing is that you can actually donate clothes, and when you donate clothes from fast fashion stores, they don't even end up in secondhand shops or being recycled, just because the garments and the materials are so cheap.
So
It's
not
already
used.
not useful. So, you know, it's a very toxic
that-
relationship in
yeah,
that sense, you know,
understand.
that
So in that way, it's better to put more effort into making clothes, so at least it can be used and
Yeah.
donated and used by somebody else.
just maybe
later
not
on.
see it so seriously. Like if a trend changes slightly and then people get crazy about a color change, or, you know, and then they need another one and they need the new one.
But then we go back to something like 60s or 80s
Yeah.
again, and fashion
Yeah.
repeats itself. in so
Exactly,
many ways.
exactly, and that's what you can find in vintage shops. You know, you can go into a vintage shop and see that original style where this trend is circulating again, and then you have the original one. And come on, if it lasted for a century, I think it's pretty good quality. You know.
Yeah. So check your grandmother's or grandfather's wardrobes. Maybe it's worth checking once
Exactly,
in a while.
'cause-
Thank you, Iveta, for sharing your experiences with me. Thank you for watching, dear haters. It was fun to take you through this experience, learning more about sustainable fashion, which I think is super important, and I think that's where future lies, to be honest. Subscribe to my channel and check out underneath this video. There would be links to Philip's page, Iveta's page. These guys are doing a great job, and I think it's worth checking out. Bye bye.
Bye.